Owen Reed checked his weapon for the third time that hour. The small room they had given him smelled like recycled air and fear. He sat alone in the waiting area of Frontier Station Helios, watching ships dock and depart through the massive viewport. 3 months ago, he would have turned down this job without a second thought. But 3 months ago, he still had enough credits to buy food without checking prices. The door hissed open. A thin man in expensive robes walked in, his face hidden behind a translator mask that made his voice sound like grinding metal. Owen stood but did not salute. Those days were behind him. "You are Owen Reed?" the man asked. "That's what my contract says. The Draconith Empire requires your services. 6 months of protection duty. The client is royal. The payment is 2 million Federation credits." Owen felt his heart skip. 2 million could set him up for life. Could help him forget the screams from Proxima Station. Could maybe let him sleep without nightmares. "What's the catch?" Owen asked. There was always a catch. The man tilted his head. "The Draconith do not view humans as equals. They barely view humans at all. Princess Seraphina has already dismissed 3 protection contractors. One she burned alive for speaking without permission. Another she threw out an airlock for looking at her directly. The third simply vanished. Sounds like a lovely client. She did not request you. Her father, Emperor Vulcanus, insisted she have protection during her diplomatic mission. She finds this insulting." Owen thought about his empty apartment, about the messages from creditors, about the bottle of cheap whiskey he had been nursing for 2 weeks because he could not afford another. "When do I start?" The man handed him a data chip. "Report to Imperial Vessel Crimson Talon in Docking Bay 7. 1 hour, do not be late. Dragons consider tardiness a personal insult." Owen took the chip and watched the man leave. He picked up his gear bag, checked his pistol one more time, and headed for the docking bay. The station was crowded with traders, mercenaries, and refugees from the border wars. Nobody paid him any attention. Just another human trying to survive in a galaxy that had too many predators and not enough hiding spots. Docking Bay 7 was restricted. 2 guards in power armor stood at the entrance, their weapons making Owen's pistol look like a child's toy. They scanned his chip and stepped aside without a word. Beyond them, the Crimson Talon waited. Owen had seen pictures of Draconith ships before. They looked like someone had carved them from volcanic rock and set them on fire. The Crimson Talon was smaller than their battle cruisers but still twice the size of any human vessel. Red and gold metal formed scales along the hull. The engines glowed with contained plasma that looked alive. He walked up the boarding ramp. The interior was hot. Not unbearable, but warm enough that sweat started forming on his neck. The walls pulsed with a faint heartbeat rhythm. Everything was built for creatures much larger than humans. The doorways rose 3 meters high. The corridors stretched wide enough to fit a cargo truck. A servant met him at the entrance. She was human, surprisingly. Young, maybe 20, with burn scars on her arms. "You are the new guard?" she asked quietly. "Owen Reed. I am Lily. I serve the princess. You should know something before you meet her. Let me guess. Do not look her in the eye. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not breathe too loud." Lily shook her head. "The princess does not want you here. She will try to make you quit. She will insult you. She will test you. If you show fear, she will hurt you. If you show anger, she will kill you." "What should I show?" "Nothing. Show her nothing at all." Lily led him through the ship. They passed crew members who looked like walking nightmares. Draconith in their natural form stood over 3 meters tall with scales that shifted colors in the light. Their eyes burned with inner fire. Their claws could tear through steel. Owen had fought beside aliens before. He had killed aliens before, but he had never been this close to a Draconith. They stopped at a massive door carved with images of dragons destroying cities. "She is inside," Lily whispered. "Good luck." The door opened before Owen could respond. Heat washed over him like standing too close to a furnace. He walked inside and the door sealed behind him. The chamber was decorated in gold and crimson. Flames burned in braziers without fuel, and in the center, sitting on a throne that seemed carved from a single ruby, was Princess Seraphina. She was in her humanoid form. Draconith royalty could shift between shapes, though they considered the humanoid form beneath them. She stood as he entered, and Owen understood immediately why she was called princess. She was beautiful in a way that made his chest hurt. Copper scales formed patterns on her bronze skin like living tattoos. Her eyes were pure gold without pupils. Her hair moved like fire frozen in time. She wore clothes that seemed woven from metal thread, and power radiated from her like heat from the sun. "So," she said, her voice carrying an echo of something ancient and terrible, "they sent me another fragile human. How long do you think you will last, little creature?" Owen met her eyes and did not look away. "As long as you need me to, Your Highness." Her smile showed too many teeth. "We shall see." She raised one hand and fire erupted from her palm. The blast shot toward Owen's face. He did not move. The flame stopped inches from his skin, hot enough to feel but controlled enough not to burn. She held it there for 10 seconds. 20. 30. Owen's face dripped with sweat, but he did not flinch. Finally, she closed her hand, and the fire vanished. "You do not fear death?" she asked. "I have seen death, Your Highness. It does not impress me anymore." Something flickered in her golden eyes. Curiosity, perhaps, or respect. "Then perhaps you will be less boring than the others," she said, returning to her throne. "We depart in 1 hour. Do not embarrass me in front of the Vryn. If you do, I will feed you to them myself." Owen bowed slightly. "Understood." He turned to leave, but her voice stopped him. "Human, what is your name?" "Owen Reed." "Owen Reed," she repeated, tasting the syllables. "I will remember it when I have you killed." He left the chamber and found Lily waiting outside. "You survived," she said, relief clear in her voice. "Barely. That is better than most." Owen touched his face where the fire had been. His skin was red but not burned. Princess Seraphina had perfect control. She could have killed him instantly but chose not to. That told him something important. She was testing him, and he had just passed the first test. 6 months suddenly seemed like a very long time. 3 weeks into the journey, Owen had learned to sleep in short bursts. The Crimson Talon moved through deep space toward the Vryn territories, and every jump through hyperspace made his bones ache. Princess Seraphina kept strange hours, sometimes awake for days, sometimes sleeping for 40 hours straight. He had to match her schedule. He stood outside her meditation chamber, back against the hot metal wall, listening to the ship hum around him. The other guards avoided him. The crew pretended he did not exist. Only Lily spoke to him, bringing food and warning him when the princess was in a particularly foul mood. Tonight she had called for him at midnight ship time. He entered the chamber to find her standing by the viewport in her humanoid form, watching the stars blur past. "Human," she said without turning. "Tell me why your kind fights so well." Owen was getting used to her random questions. She seemed fascinated by humanity in a way that contradicted her public disgust. "We are small," he said, "weak compared to most species. We learn to fight dirty or die." "Dirty," she repeated, finally looking at him. "Yes, I have read your military history. Humans do not believe in honor during war." "Honor does not stop bullets, Your Highness," she laughed. It was the first time he had heard her laugh. The sound was like bells made of crystal. "No, it does not." She walked closer to him. Too close. He could feel the heat radiating from her skin. "Do you know what my people think of your kind?" "I have some ideas. We call you the clever apes, amusing, useful sometimes, but ultimately beneath notice." Her golden eyes searched his face. "Yet here you are, standing in my presence, not afraid. Why is that?" "I have been afraid before, Your Highness. It did not help then. It will not help now." She reached out and touched his face. Her hand was hot, almost burning. Owen forced himself not to pull away. This was another test. Everything with her was a test. "You have scars," she said, tracing the line along his jaw. "This one is from plasma fire." "Yes, and this?" She touched the mark on his neck. "Shrapnel, Proxima Station. 3 years ago." Her hand dropped. "I heard about Proxima. The Separatists bombed the civilian sectors. 10,000 dead." Owen said nothing. The memories were still too fresh, too painful. "You were there," she said. "It was not a question. I was supposed to protect the evacuation. I failed." Seraphina studied him for a long moment. "And yet you took another protection contract." "Why, because I need to eat. Because running away from failure does not make it disappear." Something changed in her expression. The mockery faded. What replaced it looked almost like understanding. "Perhaps we are not so different, Owen Reed. I too have failed in my duty." Before he could ask what she meant, alarms screamed through the ship. Red light flooded the chamber. Owen's hand went to his weapon automatically. "Battle stations," a voice announced over the ship's system. "Unknown vessels approaching." All combat personnel report immediately. Seraphina's form shimmered and grew. In seconds, she had shifted to her true dragon form. She filled half the chamber, scales gleaming like polished copper, wings folded against her massive body. Her voice became deeper, resonating in Owen's chest. Pirates. How predictable. She looked down at him with eyes the size of his head. Stay close, human. If you die protecting me, at least your death will have meaning. They rushed through the corridors. The crew was already moving to defensive positions. Owen had studied the ship's layout obsessively during the past 3 weeks. He knew every exit, every weapon cache, every potential choke point. The ship shuddered as something hit the shields. The lights flickered. Seraphina burst onto the command deck, her massive form somehow fitting through doorways that should have been too small. Report, she commanded. The captain, a scarred Draconith named Forge, bowed his head. 4 vessels, Your Highness. They appeared from the Dust Veil Nebula. Military-grade weapons. They knew our route. Impossible. This route was classified. Nevertheless, they are here. Forge's expression darkened. And they are demanding we surrender you. Owen felt ice in his stomach. This was not a random attack. This was an assassination. Seraphina growled, smoke rising from her nostrils. Let them come. I will burn them from the stars. Your Highness, Owen said quickly. If they knew our route, they have inside information. They will know your capabilities. This is a trap. She turned those massive eyes on him. And what would you suggest, little human? Let me see their formation. Forge brought up the tactical display. 4 ships in a diamond pattern, blocking every escape route. Heavy cruisers, military surplus, heavily modified. Owen studied the formation and saw the flaw immediately. There, he pointed. The rear ship is out of position by 30 degrees. They are expecting you to charge the front. When you do, the rear ship will hit our engines. We will be disabled and they will board. How do you know this? Forge demanded. Because it is what I would do. Owen looked at Seraphina. We need to hit the rear ship first. Hard and fast, before they can adjust. You presume to give orders to a princess? Forge said, his hand moving toward his weapon. Seraphina raised one massive claw. Peace, Forge. The human has good instincts. She looked at Owen. If you are wrong, you will die painfully. If I am right, we all live. Your Highness, I need access to the starboard weapons. She considered for 3 heartbeats, then nodded. Owen ran to the weapons station. The control interface was designed for Draconith claws, but he made it work. He brought up the targeting system and locked onto the rear ship's shield generator. On my mark, Seraphina said, her voice carrying absolute authority. Helm, full power to forward shields. Weapons, concentrate fire on the lead ship. Make them think we are doing exactly what they expect. The Crimson Talon lurched forward. Energy beams lit up the void as both sides opened fire. The lead pirate ship took the bait, moving to intercept while its companions closed the trap. Now, Seraphina roared. Owen fired. The starboard cannons, usually used for point defense, concentrated their fire on a single target. The rear ship's shields flickered and died. Before they could restore power, Seraphina transformed in a flash of light and fire. She exited through the emergency airlock in her full dragon form, massive wings spreading in the vacuum of space. Fire erupted from her jaws, not the normal flame, but something white-hot and terrible. The beam cut through the rear ship's hull like paper. The vessel exploded in a bloom of fire and debris. The other 3 ships broke formation in confusion. That was their second mistake. Owen redirected power to the main engines. The Crimson Talon shot forward, threading between 2 of the remaining ships. Their own weapons fire hit each other in their haste to track the target. Seraphina landed back on the hull and unleashed another blast of white fire. The second ship died. The remaining 2 broke off and fled into hyperspace. Silence fell over the command deck. Seraphina returned, shifting back to humanoid form as she entered. Her clothes were somehow intact despite her transformation. She was breathing hard, smoke rising from her skin. Analysis, she commanded. Forge checked the sensors. They were well equipped. Too well equipped for normal pirates. Military encryption. High-grade weapons. Your Highness, someone wanted you dead. Someone always wants me dead, she said tiredly. Then she looked at Owen. You were correct. They would have disabled us if we had charged the front. Owen nodded but said nothing. His hands were shaking from adrenaline. Seraphina walked to him. The crew watched in shocked silence as she placed one hand on his shoulder. You saved my life, Owen Reed. That is my job, Your Highness. No, your job is to guard me. You did more than that. She paused, something strange in her golden eyes. You thought like a warrior, like an equal. Before he could respond, she pulled her hand away as if burned. She looked at her palm with an expression Owen could not read. Tend to your wounds, she said quickly, her voice suddenly formal again. We will speak of this later. She left the command deck in a hurry. Forge approached Owen, his expression unreadable. What you did today, the old dragon said quietly. I have served the princess for 40 years. I have never seen her look at anyone the way she looked at you just now. I do not understand. No, you would not. Forge's eyes held something that might have been pity. Be careful, human. Some cages are built from gold and fire. They still trap you all the same. Owen watched Seraphina's retreating form and felt something shift in his chest. Something dangerous. 3 weeks ago, he had been a bodyguard. Now he was something else. He was not sure he liked it. The Vryn hive world looked like something from a nightmare. Owen stood beside Princess Seraphina on the landing platform, trying not to stare at the massive organic structures that rose from the planet's surface like diseased teeth. Everything here was alive in the wrong way. The buildings breathed. The ground pulsed. Even the air tasted like meat. Stay within 3 meters of me at all times, Seraphina said quietly. She wore elaborate ceremonial armor that made her look like a goddess of war. The Vryn respect strength, but they will exploit any weakness. Do not show them your disgust. I was not disgusted, Your Highness. She glanced at him with those impossible golden eyes. You are a terrible liar, Owen Reed. 2 months had passed since the pirate attack. 2 months of strange conversations and long silences. Seraphina had started asking for him specifically, requesting he accompany her during meals and meditation. The crew whispered about it. Lily had warned him that Draconith royalty did not befriend humans. But what else could he call these moments when she asked about his childhood? His dreams, his fears. The receiving party approached. Vryn soldiers moved like insects given humanoid form. Their bodies were covered in black chitin. Their faces had too many eyes. Their hands ended in blades instead of fingers. Behind them came the diplomats, slightly smaller but no less disturbing. Princess Seraphina of the Ember Throne, the lead diplomat said, its voice coming from a mouth that split its face vertically. Queen Harbinger welcomes you to the primary nest. Please follow. They walked through corridors made of hardened resin. Owen kept his hand near his weapon, eyes scanning for threats. The Vryn watched him with curious hunger, as if calculating how he might taste. The throne room was vast. Queen Harbinger sat on a structure of bones and crystallized secretions. She was massive, easily 5 meters tall with wings that spread across the entire back wall. Her compound eyes reflected light and colors Owen had no names for. Princess, the queen said, her voice like rocks grinding together. We are pleased you survived your journey. We heard about the unfortunate pirate incident. Seraphina's expression did not change, but Owen saw her scales darken slightly. Anger or suspicion? Probably both. News travels fast, Your Majesty. We have many sources of information. The Queen's eyes fixed on Owen. And you brought a human. How exotic, my protection specialist. His presence is not negotiable. Of course not. The Queen made a sound like laughter. Let us discuss the treaty your father proposes. Alliance against the Kreth expansion. Shared technology. Open trade routes. She leaned forward. And what does the Draconith Empire offer in return for our fleets? For 3 hours they negotiated. Owen stood silent, watching everything. He noticed the guards positioned at every exit. Noticed the way certain Vryn kept glancing at Seraphina with too much interest. Noticed the small devices hidden in the organic walls, probably listening equipment or worse. Finally, Seraphina called for a recess. They were led to guest chambers that smelled of chemicals and decay. This is wrong, Owen said once they were alone. The Queen already knows about the pirate attack. She is too well informed. Seraphina removed her helmet and sat heavily on the furniture. I know I can smell the deception on her. But we need this alliance. The Kreth are expanding too quickly. Without the Vryn fleets, we cannot hold the border sectors. Even if the Vryn are planning to betray you? Especially then. She looked at him tiredly. This is diplomacy, Owen. Everyone is planning to betray everyone. The question is who strikes first. Owen knelt beside her. Your Highness, I have a bad feeling about tonight's banquet. Let me scout the area first. She reached out and touched his face. It had become a strange habit of hers, this touching. The first time had been an accident, she claimed. The second time less so. Now she did it without thinking, as if checking he was still real. "You worry about me," she said softly. "That is my job." "No, this is different." Her hand moved to his chest, right over his heart. "I can feel it. Your fear, your concern. It is not the fear of failing a contract. It is something else." Owen did not pull away. "What do you feel?" "I do not know. I have never felt this before." She removed her hand and stood abruptly. "Get some rest. The banquet begins in 4 hours," but Owen could not rest. Something felt wrong. He left the chamber and explored the guest wing, memorizing every corridor, every exit. He found Lily in the servant quarters. "What do you know about Vryn customs?" he asked. "They honor strength and betrayal equally," she said. "Why?" "The queen is too friendly." "Too accommodating." Lily's face went pale. "You think they will attack during the banquet?" "I think someone will. And I think they will make it look like the Vryn did it." Her eyes widened with understanding. "The people who sent the pirates. They want to sabotage the alliance. And kill the princess in the process." Owen spent the next 3 hours preparing. He checked every weapon, every exit, every possible angle of attack. When the time came, he wore his combat armor under his formal jacket. The banquet hall was a horror of organic architecture and living decorations. Tables were made from petrified shell. The food moved on the plates. Owen forced himself to eat and smile while his instincts screamed danger. Seraphina sat beside Queen Harbinger, discussing trade routes and military cooperation. She was brilliant in her element, negotiating with careful words and veiled threats. Owen watched from behind her seat, playing the silent bodyguard. Halfway through the 5th course, the lights went dark. Owen moved on pure instinct. He grabbed Seraphina and pulled her behind the table as energy weapons lit up the darkness. Screams filled the air. Vryn soldiers collapsed as invisible attackers fired from the shadows. "Stay down," Owen commanded, his weapon already in his hand. "I do not take orders from—" An explosion cut off her words. Part of the ceiling collapsed. Through the smoke and chaos, Owen saw them. Figures in black armor, too small to be Vryn, moving with military precision. Assassins, professional ones. He fired twice, dropping one attacker. But there were more. They were focusing their fire on Seraphina's position, ignoring everyone else. "They want you," Owen said. "We need to move." Seraphina's form rippled and grew. Her dragon shape burst free, scales reflecting the weapon's fire. She roared and flame filled the hall. Attackers screamed as they burned. But they kept coming. Owen fought beside her, his small weapon somehow keeping pace with her massive claws and terrible fire. They moved together without speaking, each anticipating the other's actions. When an assassin threw a plasma grenade at her exposed flank, Owen dove forward and knocked it away. The explosion threw him against a wall hard enough to crack his armor. Seraphina turned in horror. "Owen!" He struggled to his feet, blood running from his nose. "I am fine." "Keep moving." But he was not fine. His left arm would not work properly. His ribs felt broken. Each breath brought pain. A final assassin emerged from the smoke, this one larger than the others. He carried a weapon designed to pierce Draconith's scales. Owen raised his pistol, but the assassin was faster. The blade swept toward Seraphina's neck. Owen threw himself between them. The blade went through his shoulder instead of her throat. Pain exploded through his body. He fell, consciousness fading. The last thing he saw was Seraphina's face above him, her golden eyes wide with something that looked like terror. She caught him before he hit the ground. "No," she whispered. "No, you stupid, fragile human." Her hands glowed with heat. She pressed them against his wound and he screamed as her fire cauterized the injury. It should have killed him. Instead, it sealed the wound and stopped the bleeding. She held him against her chest as her fire consumed the remaining assassins. Her heartbeat thundered in his ear. Or maybe that was his own heart, racing from pain and adrenaline. "Why?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Why would you do that?" Owen tried to speak, but darkness took him. He woke in the medical bay hours later. His shoulder was bandaged with Draconith healing wraps that felt warm against his skin. Seraphina sat beside the bed in her humanoid form, still wearing her damaged armor. "You are awake," she said. "Did I die?" "Nearly." Her hands were shaking. "I had to use my fire to save you. Do you understand what that means? That I owe you my life?" "No." She stood and paced the small room. In my culture, when royalty uses their sacred fire to heal someone, it creates a bond, a connection. It is called the flame link. It means, she stopped, struggling with the words. It means I can feel you now. Your pain, your fear, your emotions. Owen sat up slowly, ignoring the pain. What? And if the bond deepens, if it completes itself, we become permanently connected. Soul to soul, for as long as we both live. Is that bad? She turned to face him, her golden eyes blazing. It is forbidden. I am a princess of the Ember Throne. You are human. If my father discovers this bond, he will have you executed and me exiled. And still I cannot regret it because the alternative was watching you die. Owen understood then. The touching, the long conversations, the way she looked at him when she thought he was not watching. She was falling for him, and the feeling was definitely mutual. Your Highness, Seraphina. When we are alone, call me Seraphina. Seraphina. Her name tasted like fire and honey. What do we do? She sat beside him and took his hand. Heat radiated from her skin, but it did not burn. It felt right. I do not know, she admitted. But I know I am not ready to lose you. Outside the medical bay, the galaxy continued turning. Enemies plotted in darkness. Treaties hung in balance. But in that moment, Owen Reed and Princess Seraphina sat together in silence, holding hands across an impossible divide, feeling a bond grow stronger with every heartbeat. Owen stood on the observation deck of the Crimson Talon, watching stars drift past. His shoulder still ached where the assassin's blade had cut through muscle and bone. The Draconith healing wraps had closed the wound in days rather than weeks, but phantom pains remained. Or maybe that was just the flame link. He could not tell anymore. For the past 3 weeks he had felt Seraphina even when she was on the other side of the ship. Her emotions bled into his like colors mixing on wet canvas. When she was happy, his chest felt light. When she was angry, heat crawled under his skin. And when she was scared, which happened more than he expected, his heart raced with protective fury. She stood beside him now, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. They did this often, found excuses to be near each other while pretending they had not. You are thinking too loud, she said. You can hear my thoughts now. No, but I can feel your worry. It tastes like smoke. She glanced at him. You are concerned about what happens when we reach the Ember Throne. Should I not be? You said your father would have me killed if he discovered the bond. He will not kill you immediately. Father believes in proper trials. Her attempt at humor fell flat. Oh, and I've been thinking. Perhaps it would be better if you left when we dock at the next station. I can pay your contract in full. You can disappear before anyone discovers what happened between us. Owen turned to face her fully. Is that what you want? What I want is irrelevant. That was not my question. Seraphina looked at him with those impossible golden eyes. No, it is not what I want. I want you to stay. I want to wake up and know you are nearby. I want to hear your terrible jokes and your stories about human wars. I want... She stopped herself. But I am a princess. What I want has never mattered as much as what I must do. Before Owen could respond, the ship's alarms blared. Red lights flooded the observation deck. They both ran toward the command center. Forge met them at the entrance, his scarred face grim. Your Highness, we have received an emergency transmission from the Ember Throne. Your brother, Prince Aldrich, is on approach with 3 battlecruisers. He demands we prepare for immediate boarding. Seraphina's scales darkened to near black. Aldrich, of course. Father must have told him about the diplomatic mission. There is more, Your Highness. Forge looked uncomfortable. The message specifically mentions your human bodyguard. Prince Aldrich wishes to inspect the human who saved your life. His words, not mine. Owen felt ice in his stomach. This is not a family visit. No, Seraphina said quietly. This is a test. Aldrich has always disagreed with my father's progressive views. He believes humans are little more than clever animals. If he discovers the flame link, he will use it against you, Owen finished. She nodded. He has wanted me removed from the succession for years. This would be the perfect excuse. The ship shuddered as docking clamps connected. Minutes later, Prince Aldrich strode onto the command deck like a natural disaster given form. He was taller than Seraphina in his humanoid shape, with scales that shifted between red and black. His eyes burned with contempt as they swept across the room and landed on Owen. So this is the famous human, Aldrich said, circling Owen like a predator studying prey, the one who threw himself in front of an assassin's blade. How very stupid and very human. Brother? Serafina stepped between them. What brings you so far from court? Father asked me to escort you home personally. He has concerns about your safety. Aldrich's smile showed too many teeth, and concerns about your judgment. Apparently some rumors have reached his ears. Rumors about a princess growing too close to her hired help. Owen kept his expression neutral, but inside his heart raced. Serafina must have felt it because he suddenly felt a wave of calm wash over him through the bond. She was trying to soothe him. Rumors spread by jealous courtiers, no doubt, Serafina said coolly. I have done nothing improper. Then you will not mind if I test the human's qualifications. Aldrich looked directly at Owen. I challenge you, human, to a duel. If you truly have the skill to protect a princess, prove it by surviving 3 minutes against me. Aldrich, this is unnecessary, Serafina protested. On the contrary, dear sister, this is very necessary. Father has granted me the authority to evaluate your security arrangements. If this human cannot defend himself against me, how can he defend you against real threats? His eyes gleamed with malice. Unless you object, which would suggest you have grown attached to him in inappropriate ways. Owen saw the trap immediately. If Serafina protected him, it would confirm the rumors. If she let the duel happen, Aldrich would kill him legally. I accept, Owen said before Serafina could respond. She turned to him, horror in her eyes. Owen, no. Your Highness, if Prince Aldrich questions my qualifications, I should prove them. He looked at Aldrich. 3 minutes. Non-lethal strikes only, Aldrich laughed. Oh no, human. Where is the test in that? This will be a real duel. To surrender or death, those are the only acceptable endings. The crew cleared a space in the cargo bay. Word spread quickly through the ship. Within minutes, dozens had gathered to watch. Owen removed his jacket and checked his weapons. He had his pistol, 2 knives, and his wits. Against a Draconith prince with centuries of combat experience and the ability to transform into a creature that could tear him apart. Lily appeared beside him, her face pale. You cannot win this fight. I know. Then why accept? Because if I refuse, he will hurt Serafina. This way, at least I control how I lose. Serafina grabbed his arm. Owen, please. I will talk to Aldrich. I will send you away before he can. No. He covered her hand with his. The touch sent warmth through the flame link, mixing with her fear and his determination. I am tired of running. I failed people at Proxima because I was not strong enough. I will not fail you. You are not strong enough to beat Aldrich either. Strength is not everything, Your Highness. You taught me that. He walked to the center of the cargo bay before she could argue further. Aldrich stood opposite, already shifted to his full dragon form. He was massive, easily 6 meters tall, with scales like armored plating and claws that could shred steel. Any last words, human? Aldrich asked. Just one. I am sorry. For what? For what I am about to do to your pride. Aldrich roared and charged. Owen dove to the side, rolled, and came up firing. His pistol shots pinged harmlessly off Aldrich's scales, but that was not the point. The point was to annoy him, to make him angry, to make him stupid. For 2 minutes Owen ran. He used every piece of cargo, every support beam, every shadow as cover. He fired when he could, dodged when he must, and refused to engage directly. Aldrich's frustration grew with each miss. His attacks became wilder, less controlled. Owen felt the flame link pulsing with Serafina's terror. She thought he was running out of fear. She did not understand yet. With 30 seconds left, Aldrich cornered him against the cargo bay wall. Nowhere left to run, little ape. Who said I was running? Owen pulled a thermal detonator from his belt. I was positioning you. He threw the detonator not at Aldrich but at the ceiling directly above him. The explosion compromised the support structure. Cargo containers fell like an avalanche. Aldrich was too large to dodge in time. The containers buried him in tons of metal and supplies. Silence fell over the cargo bay. Owen collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. His ribs hurt. His shoulders screamed. But he was alive. Aldrich burst from the wreckage in a rage. Cheating. Dishonorable. You fight like a coward. I fight to win, Owen said simply. You wanted to test if I could protect the princess. I just proved I would do anything. Use any method, sacrifice any honor to keep her safe. Did I pass your test? Aldrich shifted back to humanoid form. His armor was dented, but he was unharmed. You should be dead. I should kill you for that insult. Then do it. But it will not change what just happened. I survived 3 minutes against you, against a Draconith prince. Owen stood straighter despite the pain. What will the crew think? What will they tell others? That a human lasted longer than most of your own kind could? Aldrich's eyes blazed with fury but also calculation. Owen had given him a choice. Kill a human and look weak, or spare a human and look magnanimous. Either way, Owen had won something. You have earned my attention, human, Aldrich said coldly. But attention from me is not always a blessing. He turned to Seraphina. Sister, we will discuss your security arrangements in private. Now. As Aldrich left, Seraphina rushed to Owen. She caught him as his legs gave out. You idiot, she whispered. You brilliant suicidal idiot. Did it work? You humiliated him. He will never forgive you. She helped him sit, and he saw how I reacted when you were in danger. He knows, Owen. He knows about the bond. Through the flame link, Owen felt her fear spike, but underneath it he felt something else, pride, affection, maybe even love. What happens now, he asked. Now we hope my father is more understanding than my brother. She touched his face gently. Because I am not letting you go. Not without a fight. Owen leaned into her touch. Good. Because I am not going anywhere. Above them, through the cargo bay windows, the Ember Throne system loomed in the distance. The heart of the Draconith Empire, where their fate would be decided. Owen had survived assassins and pirates and a duel with a prince. Now he had to survive politics. He was not sure which was more dangerous. The Ember Throne planet looked like it had been forged in the heart of a dying star. Molten rivers carved through black rock continents. Volcanoes painted the sky with ash and fire. Cities rose from the landscape like monuments to heat and power. Owen watched through the viewport as the Crimson Talon descended toward the Imperial Palace. His hands clenched tight enough to hurt. You are afraid, Seraphina said beside him. Not a question. She could feel everything through the flame link now. Would you prefer I lie about it? No, I prefer you honest and terrified over false and brave. She took his hand. The gesture was dangerous here in view of the crew, but she did it anyway. My father is not cruel. He is old and traditional, but he values loyalty and courage. What you did for me matters. What about Aldrich? Her expression darkened. My brother has already filed charges. Corruption of royal blood, improper bonding with a lesser species, conspiracy to undermine imperial traditions. The trial begins in 2 hours. Owen felt his stomach drop. 2 hours? Aldrich wants this resolved quickly. Before I can build support among the court. She squeezed his hand. Owen, there is still time for you to run. I can arrange transport. You could disappear into human space before— Stop. He turned to face her fully. I am not running. Not from this. Not from you. Tears formed in her golden eyes. Owen had never seen her cry before. You could die. Do you understand that? My father could execute you for this. Then I die, knowing I chose something worth dying for. He touched her face, thumb brushing away a tear that evaporated to steam against her hot skin. I spent 3 years running from Proxima, from the people I failed to save. I am done running. Guards came for him before the ship finished docking. They clapped heavy restraints on his wrists, the kind designed to hold Draconith prisoners. The metal burned against his skin. Seraphina protested, but Aldrich was already there, smiling his predator smile. Security precautions, dear sister. We cannot have your pet human escaping before the trial. They dragged Owen through corridors of polished obsidian and burning gold. The palace was impossibly huge, designed for beings who could transform into creatures 3 times his size. Servants and courtiers stopped to stare at the human in chains. Some looked curious. Others looked disgusted. The holding cell was deep in the palace's lower levels. The walls radiated heat like an oven. A Draconith guard threw him inside without ceremony. The door sealed with a sound like grinding teeth. Owen sat in the darkness and felt Seraphina through the bond. She was angry, terrified, fighting with someone, probably Aldrich. Her emotions washed over him in waves, mixing with his own until he could barely tell them apart. Hours passed. Finally, the door opened and Lily entered, carrying food and water. You should not be here, Owen said. Neither should you, but here we are. She set down the tray. The whole palace is talking about nothing else. A human bonded to a princess. Some call it scandal. Others call it proof that the old ways are dying. What does the Emperor say? Nothing yet. He is meeting with his advisors. Lily hesitated. Owen, I need to tell you something. About the flame link, about what it means. Serafina already explained. We are connected. Soul to soul. Yes, but she probably did not explain what happens if one of you dies. Lily's voice dropped to a whisper. If you die, the bond breaks. Serafina will feel pain, grief, but she will survive. But if she dies, you die with her. The bond flows stronger from dragon to human. If her heart stops, yours stops too. Owen absorbed this information slowly, so I am tied to her life. Completely, which is why Aldrich wants you dead. With you gone, Serafina can be forced to bond with someone appropriate. Another Draconith royal. Someone who strengthens the Empire rather than weakens it. And if I refuse to die quietly, Lily smiled sadly, then you fight, like you always do. The trial began in the Hall of Judgment. Owen was led in chains before the Dragon Council, 12 ancient Draconith who served as judges and advisors to the Emperor. They sat in alcoves carved from volcanic rock, their eyes burning with inner fire. At the center, on a throne made from a single massive ruby, sat Emperor Volcanus. He was old beyond measure. His scales were white as ash, his eyes like molten gold. Power radiated from him like heat from the sun. When he looked at Owen, it felt like being examined by something fundamental to the universe itself. Serafina knelt before her father. Emperor, I request the right to speak in defense of Owen Reed. You request or you demand, daughter? Volcanus's voice was deep as earthquakes. I request, father, but I will demand if necessary. A ripple of shock went through the council. Aldrich stood from his position beside the throne, barely containing his rage. You see, father? She is already corrupted by this human. She forgets her place, forgets her duty. I forget nothing, Serafina said coldly, least of all that Owen Reed saved my life 3 times. Once from pirates who had inside information about our route, once from assassins at the Vryn negotiations, and once from bleeding to death when he threw himself in front of a blade meant for my heart. He is a bodyguard, Aldrich spat. That is his job. Then he does his job better than any Draconith you assigned me. The ones who let pirates ambush us. The ones who failed to detect assassins in a banquet hall. Serafina's eyes blazed. Or perhaps they were not failures at all. Perhaps they were part of the conspiracy. Silence fell over the hall. Aldrich's expression flickered with something that might have been guilt. Emperor Volcanus raised one hand. You accuse your brother of conspiracy? I accuse someone in this court of trying to kill me. 3 assassination attempts in 4 months. All perfectly timed. All with inside knowledge, Serafina stood. Father, I have served this empire faithfully. I have negotiated treaties that saved millions of lives. I have put duty before desire every day of my existence. And now I am on trial because I dared to bond with someone who actually values my life? The bond is forbidden, one of the council members said. For good reason. Humans are short-lived, weak, beneath us. Owen Reed is many things, Serafina said, but he is not weak. He survived a duel with Aldrich using nothing but human cunning. He fought beside me as an equal when no Draconith guard would. And yes, I bonded with him. Not intentionally. Not by choice at first, but I do not regret it. Volcanus studied his daughter for a long moment. Then his gaze shifted to Owen. Human. You have remained silent. Why? Owen met the Emperor's eyes. Every instinct screamed to look away. He ignored them. Because this is not about me, Your Majesty. This is about whether your daughter has the right to choose her own path. I am just the excuse. Do you love my daughter? The question hung in the air like a blade. Owen felt Serafina's shock through the bond. They had never spoken those words aloud, had barely admitted it to themselves. Yes, Owen said simply. I do. And you understand that if this bond is completed, you can never leave her? That you will be tied to the Draconith Empire forever? That you will outlive every human you have ever known? I understand. And you accept this? Owen thought about Proxima Station, about the people he had failed to save, about 3 years of running from his own guilt and shame, about finding purpose again and protecting someone who had become everything to him. I accept it. Not because I want to live forever, but because I would rather have 30 years with her than a lifetime of wondering what could have been. Volcanus leaned back in his throne. You speak well for a human. But words are easy. Aldrich, you have evidence of conspiracy? Aldrich pulled out a data chip. Intercepted communications between the princess and her human. Planning to elope. To abandon her duties and flee to human space. That is a lie, Serafina said. Is it? Let us examine the evidence. But before Aldrich could present anything, alarms screamed through the palace. Guards rushed into the hall shouting about explosions in the lower levels, about a weapon activating, about reality itself tearing apart. Vulcanus stood. What is happening? A guard captain burst through the doors. Emperor, the old reality anchor in the Foundation has been sabotaged. Someone activated it as a weapon. If we cannot shut it down in the next 10 minutes, it will collapse this entire section of the palace into another dimension. Aldrich's face went white. Not fear, guilt, recognition. Seraphina saw it too. You activated it. You were willing to destroy the palace just to kill me and cover your conspiracy. I activated nothing, Aldrich protested, but his voice wavered. The activation codes were traced to Prince Aldrich's personal terminal, the guard captain said quietly. Vulcanus turned to his son with an expression of profound disappointment. Aldrich, what have you done? What was necessary? She is destroying our traditions, father, consorting with humans, weakening the empire. I did this for us. You did this for power. Vulcanus's voice carried absolute judgment, and now you have doomed us all. The weapon can be stopped, Owen said suddenly. But someone has to go into the containment chamber and manually reset the anchor. The radiation will kill anyone who tries. Then we are lost, one of the council members said. No one can survive that chamber. Owen looked at Seraphina. Through the bond, he felt her realization, her horror. No, she whispered. Owen, no. I can feel the layout through your memories. I know where the controls are. And I am already dead if you die, so the radiation does not matter. He turned to Vulcanus. Emperor, give me access. Let me do this, please. Vulcanus studied him. You would sacrifice yourself for an empire that just put you on trial? I would sacrifice myself for her. The empire is just a bonus. A terrible silence fell. Then Vulcanus nodded. Release him. Guards unlocked Owen's chains. Seraphina grabbed his arm. There has to be another way. There is not. You know that. He touched her face one last time. I love you. I should have said it sooner. Owen, he kissed her. In front of the Emperor. In front of the Council. In front of everyone. Let them see. Let them know. Then he ran. Owen ran through corridors that shook with each pulse of the destabilizing reality anchor. Emergency lights painted everything red. Servants and guards fled in the opposite direction, away from the lower levels where reality itself was beginning to tear. He ran toward it. Through the flame link, he felt Seraphina following him. She had transformed to her dragon form, flying through the palace halls, ignoring protocols and traditions. He felt her desperation mixing with his determination. Owen, stop! Her voice echoed through the corridors as she caught up to him. You know I cannot. Then I am coming with you. The radiation will kill you too. Her dragon form shimmered and she became humanoid again, running beside him. We are bonded. If you die, I feel your death. If we must die, let us die together. Owen grabbed her hand as they ran. If we both die, who stops Aldrich from doing this again? Who protects the people you spent your life trying to save? She did not answer because there was no answer. They both knew he was right. They reached the containment chamber doors. Beyond them, Owen could see the reality anchor glowing with unstable energy. Space twisted around it like water circling a drain. The air tasted like metal and electricity. I have to go alone, Owen said, but I need you to do something for me. Anything. Live. Build the empire you dreamed about. Make this sacrifice mean something. He touched her face, memorizing every detail. And do not let them say I was just a human who died for his betters. Tell them I was a man who chose love over survival. Tell them that matters. Seraphina pulled him into a fierce embrace. You are the bravest creature I have ever known. Dragon or human or anything else, through the bond, Owen felt her pouring something into him. Energy. Life. Her own essence flowing through the flame link, strengthening him, shielding him as much as she could. Seraphina. What are you doing? Giving you a chance. The bond flows both ways. If I can feel your death, perhaps I can delay it. Her eyes blazed with inner fire. I am not losing you without a fight. Owen felt power flooding his body. His skin began to glow with faint copper light. The edges of his vision shimmered with heat haze. Now go, she commanded. Save us all, he kissed her one more time. Then he ran through the containment chamber doors. The radiation hit him like a wall of knives. Every cell in his body screamed. The reality anchor pulsed before him, a sphere of twisted spacetime that hurt to look at directly. Around it, control panels sparked and failed. Owen could see the reset mechanism, a simple lever that needed to be pulled. So simple, so far away. He took one step. His legs buckled. Blood ran from his nose. Through the bond, he felt Seraphina's power wrapping around him like armor made of fire. It was not enough to stop the radiation, but it slowed the damage, gave him seconds instead of instant death. He took another step. Another. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely see them. The anchor's pull grew stronger, trying to drag him into whatever nightmare dimension it connected to. Behind him, outside the chamber, Seraphina collapsed to her knees. Guards caught her before she fell completely. Her father appeared, his ancient face twisted with concern and something else. Respect, maybe. Daughter, you are killing yourself. Stop feeding him your power. I will not. I cannot. The bond will drain you completely. You will die with him. Then I die. I will not let him face this alone. Vulcanus looked at the human struggling toward the reset lever, looked at his daughter pouring her life force into someone she loved, and understood. He is not human anymore, the Emperor said quietly. Look at him. He burns with your fire. He carries your strength. The flame link has completed itself. He is bonded to you fully. Seraphina looked up through tears. What does that mean? It means he is yours, soul to soul, for as long as either of you lives. Vulcanus knelt beside his daughter. And if we help him, perhaps both of you survive. The Emperor raised his hands. White fire erupted around him, ancient and terrible. He directed it through Seraphina, adding his power to hers. Other council members joined, then guards, then servants. A chain of fire flowing through the flame link directly to Owen. Inside the chamber, Owen felt the surge of energy, not just from Seraphina now, but from dozens of Draconith. Their combined strength filled him, pushed back the radiation, gave him the power to take another step. Another. His hand closed around the reset lever. The metal burned even through his glowing skin. With his last strength, Owen pulled. The reality anchor's hum changed pitch. The glow dimmed. The tear in spacetime began to close. Owen felt the radiation finally overwhelming him despite all the power being channeled through the bond. His vision went white. His heart stuttered. Through the flame link, he felt Seraphina scream. Then massive claws grabbed him and pulled him backward. Vulcanus had transformed to his full dragon form and entered the chamber. The ancient emperor's scales were already blackening from radiation, but he did not stop. He grabbed Owen in one massive claw and flew back through the doors. They emerged into the corridor. The containment chamber sealed behind them. The reality anchor completed its shutdown sequence with a sound like thunder. Silence fell. Owen lay on the floor, his body still glowing with borrowed fire. He was not breathing. His heart had stopped. Seraphina crawled to him, her own strength nearly gone. She placed her hands on his chest and poured everything she had left into him. Fire flowed between them, not destroying but healing, rebuilding, transforming. Breathe, she commanded. I did not cross every law of our people just to lose you now. Breathe. Owen's chest heaved. Air filled his lungs. His heart started again, beating in rhythm with hers. He opened his eyes and they were no longer fully human. Gold flecks swirled in the brown. The flame link's mark permanent and undeniable. Did it work? He managed to whisper. Seraphina laughed and cried at the same time. You stupid, magnificent fool, yes, it worked. Vulcanus shifted back to humanoid form. His scales were damaged, smoking from radiation exposure, but he was alive. He looked down at Owen and his daughter tangled together on the floor. The bond is complete, the Emperor said. I felt it through my daughter. The flame link has made him something new, not quite human. Not quite Draconith, but unquestionably yours. Seraphina helped Owen sit up. Father, I know this breaks tradition. I know it will cause problems in the court, but I will not give him up. I know. Vulcanus smiled, the first real smile Owen had seen from him. Your mother bonded with someone the court did not approve of either. A soldier from a lower house. No royal blood. They said it would weaken the throne. He gestured to himself. I am the result of that bond. Perhaps tradition is not always correct. Guards dragged Aldrich into the corridor. The prince was in chains now, his scales dark with shame. Father, I can explain. You can be silent. Vulcanus's voice carried absolute authority. You sabotaged the reality anchor, hoping to blame the collapse on structural failure after killing Seraphina. You conspired with the pirates. You hired the assassins at the Vryn negotiations. I have reviewed the evidence while you were preoccupied with your trial. Aldrich said nothing. There was nothing to say. You are exiled, Vulcanus pronounced, stripped of title and claim to the throne. You will leave this system within the hour and never return. Be grateful I do not execute you for treason. As guards dragged Aldrich away, the Emperor turned back to Owen and Seraphina. The old laws forbidding cross-species bonds are hereby abolished. If my daughter wishes to bond with a human brave enough to die for our empire, then our empire should be honored by his presence. He placed one massive hand on Owen's shoulder. Welcome to the family, Owen Reed. 6 months passed. The court eventually accepted what they could not change. Some Draconiths still looked at Owen with suspicion, but others had begun to see him differently. The human who fought a prince. The human who saved the palace. The human bonded to a princess. Seraphina received a new title. Princess of the Bridge, they called her. Ambassador to the human worlds. Her mission was to forge connections between species, to prove that the old ways of isolation and superiority no longer served the Empire. Owen stood beside her on the landing platform of a small colony world at the edge of Draconith space. Human settlers were building homes here, under protection of the Empire. A year ago, such cooperation would have been impossible. Do you regret it? Seraphina asked, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple. She was in her humanoid form, her hand in his. Owen thought about everything he had lost. His old life, his humanity at least partly. The simple existence of a mercenary with no attachments. Then he thought about everything he had gained. Purpose. Love. A reason to wake up each morning that was not haunted by Proxima Station's ghosts. Every cage is a trap until you realize the door was never locked, he said. I chose this. I choose you. Every day. Seraphina's form shifted, wings unfurling from her back. She transformed enough to spread those magnificent wings around them both, creating a shelter of scales and fire. Then let us see what the galaxy has in store for two fools who broke every rule. She lifted into the air, carrying him with her. Together they flew over the colony, human and dragon, bodyguard and princess. Two souls bound by choice rather than fate. Below them, settlers stopped their work to watch. Some waved. Others simply stared in wonder at the impossible sight. In the distance, ships from a dozen different species waited at the orbital station. Traders, diplomats, refugees seeking a new life in a galaxy that was slowly learning cooperation. The old empire was dying. A new one was being born. And at its heart, a human who had been hired to protect a dragon princess had found something worth more than any contract. He had found a home. Not in a place, but in a person who burned bright enough to light his way through any darkness. Owen Reed had finally stopped running. And in Seraphina's arms, wrapped in her wings, he had finally found peace.